Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome back. In today's tutorial, we're going to build a Plotly AI, a Plotly agent for creating Plotly graphs. So we're going to give it the data beforehand, and we're going to ask our agent to create a graph, a Plotly graph based on our instructions. So it's going to give us the code with some explanation like any AI does, and then it will display the figure that it built for us. Right, and we can change the instruction. We can say create a bar graph. Let's see what it does there. Submit. It's thinking, using the data, and now it's going to give us the whole explanation with the code, and it's going to display this figure onto our app. Now this is really cool because it's a perfect app for learning Plotly and understanding all the different graphs that you can create with Plotly, and you can also expedite your graph development process, right? So instead of you writing all the code, you can have the Plotly AI build the code, initial code for you, and then you can just change it. Now this app does not have memory. Every time it's not going to remember in the chat what I told it a second ago. Every new message is a completely new chat. But in the next couple of videos, we are going to add some memory to this chat. So I highly recommend joining the Charming Data community. If you haven't, it's completely open, it's completely free. This is a place where you will find the code and many different Langchain apps and the app gallery. Most importantly, if you go to the project chats or projects for career development, you're going to find projects that we as a community do together to learn Python and AI and build our career project portfolio, right? So we can get a job in Python or in the field of AI. So come join us. It's completely free and open to everybody. All right. Also, one last thing before we go over the code to build this app right here, I want to show you how we can also do this, a dynamic app with dynamic data. So I can feed it maybe a different data set. Let's feed it, I don't know, this data set. I think it's like home prices or no, Olympics something. And we can say just, I don't know, we'll keep this simple. We'll say build a graph. And let's see what it does. Hopefully it does it correctly. There we go. Some explanation, the code, and then it built us a bar chart dividing with a legend of the survey before July and December, showcasing or visualizing all the rows of this data set. So again, this app right here, I will put on the Charming Data in about a week from now. I'll create a video and turn on your notifications on YouTube as well, so you can get notified when I share this video right here. All right, so let's go back to our app right here. What is the code for this app? Let's refresh. And we're just gonna say, build a line chart. Let's see if it even makes sense. Line chart might not make sense here, but we're gonna tell it. So now we have a line chart. It built a line chart of, the script will create a line chart that shows total price of missions over time. Well, this makes sense. All the missions right here, all the prices of all the missions, and you can see the total price, how it slowly goes up with time, probably also with the inflation of the dollar. So this is really cool. How is this happening? Let's go over the code, all right? The code is right here. Make it a little bit bigger for you, and we'll start from the top. All right, so in the first couple of lines of code, we're just importing the libraries that we need. We need Langchain for the AI that we're going to create and the models, Dash to actually display the app, right? The graph and the AG grid and the title. This is all the front end. And we're going to use this to read our API key. In this case, we are going to use Groq. Groq we import from here is free for now, I think, and it's incredibly fast. So I'm going to use that as my large language model. I'm actually going to use the Llama 3 model, but you could, use pretty much any model you want. If you're using OpenAI model, you can do that. You can use a mixture model or anything you want. But this needs an OpenAI, a Groq API key, right? Groq API key, again, it's free for now. So just go to the Groq website right here. I'll put this link under the video and just do create API key and make sure you copy this 17, 20, 30 digit key and then add it you're going to add this key to the env file, this file right here, the CENV file, that looks like this. I'm not going to show you that because I don't want to show you my key, but this is what is inside the env file. Groq API key spelled this way with capital letters, and then you put here your API key between quotation marks, and that's it. And then you have this code right here that's going to find the env file, is going to pull the API key that was assigned to this object, and then we're going to assign this object with the API key to the API key property inside chat Groq, right? So now we have our Llama 3 model, our large language model, and here we have our prompt we're using with Langchain as well. And in the prompt, it's a system prompt. We're going to tell the AI that it's a data visualization expert. It only uses the Plotly graphing library to plot graphs. And it's supposed that the data is provided as a space mission data. Now, this is very important that we spell this correctly in this case, because when it creates the code, it's going to create, you see the code right here. Let's show you. Right here, space, it's creating the code. It's reading space mission data.csv into pandas data frame. So it has to read the right name, or else it's not going to load, because the data that we loaded into our app initially, when we first started the app like this data right here with AG grid is this one right here, is a space mission data.csv. It's actually right here in the root folder, right? Mission, company, date, everything is right here. So I'm reading it. I have my df. I'm only going to take the first 5 rows, the head, and then I'm going to convert it to a string because we're going to feed it into our large language model. But we don't want to feed 20,000 rows or 100 rows. Even 50 rows will make the large language model too slow or not work because it's a lot of tokens. So we're only going to give it a sample, the first 5 or 3 rows, to be able to understand what the data looks like, what are the column names, and what is the type of data. Is a date? Does it have to transfer to a pandas date time? Do the dollar prices have to transfer from strings to integers? The AI needs to see the data type. So we're going to give it the first 5 rows as a string. Okay, so that's why here we're going to say the data provided as a space for mission data.csv, exactly the name of our file. If you change the file, change this name, and the first 5 rows with this data follow the user indications when creating the graph. So whatever the user says, try to follow their instructions. So this data right here, the first 5 rows, we're actually going to see it all the way down here. See this data? This is our string, our CSV string right here, which is the first 5 rows. Right? We'll go over that in a minute again. Okay, so we have our system. It's a Plotly expert that's going to build graphs from the data provided. Now, we're going to chain the prompt to the model. So we have our chain with the model and with the prompt. And now we can invoke the chain right here below to kind of complete our request. Now we have our function called get from code. We will go over this function at the end because this is what allows us to display the figure onto the Dash app. We'll go over it at the end. And here we have our Dash app. We have our title, Plotly AI for creating graphs, our title. And then we have our AG grid, right? Dash AG grid. We have our DF. Now we're not putting notice we're not putting the first 5 rows of CSV string. We're putting the whole DF inside the grid because we want the user to see the whole data frame. We have our column names, and then we have default column with floating filter and sortable, so we can actually sort by date. We can sort by price, rockets, and whatever we want. Successful. Let me only see the false ones, and so on and so on. These are the filters. Okay, so kind of cool that we have these built-in functions inside our AG grid. Then we have our text area where we are going to give it the value, the request right here, whatever we want it to do. And then we have our button, And inside the loading, this loading is the spinner, right? The thing that moved whenever the callbacks get triggered, that blue spinner. Inside, we have the div and the markdown. Here, to this children, we're going to give the graph, and to the children of the markdown, we're going to give the whole output, the explanation, right? Right here, the whole output. Here is a Python script that uses Plotly, blah, blah, blah. Here is the code, and here, this script will create a line chart, blah, 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 blah. This will go into the children of the markdown. Only the graph is going to go into this div right here. All right? So here's our callback. This is where the magic happens. This is where we tell it what to do, and then it spits out the answer, and then it pulls the fig from the code, and then returns the figure and the output to the markdown, to the children right here. So let's see an example again. Build a line chart. Let's do that again. Build a line chart, please. Let's see if it makes the same line chart or a different one. Oh, so this is a different line chart with the dates and the price on the y-axis, right? Okay, so how did it actually do this? I said submit, I clicked the submit button, it gave me some explanation, and it gave me the graph. So this is what is happening is right here inside the callback. First, we're going to take the end clicks of the button as my input. You see this is my button and my button. We're going to take the end clicks property, which is this underscore. And this is an input. So whenever the button is clicked, the callback will be triggered, right? The callback will be a function will be executed. We're also going to take the value of the user request. The value of the user request is right here. User request. The value is just an empty, is the property that listens to the text area. So if I say this is the value. Create a graph to visualize. Now this is going to be the value right here, right? This is the value of the user input. Create a graph to visualize. So it's actually listening to what the text area value is, and it's going to return this value right here. The script or the request is going to return it or assign it to the content of my human message, right? This is how we invoke our large language model chain. And we're going to also give it the data, the string. Remember, this data right here of the CSV string refers to this data in the system. We told the system, prepare, you're going to get a data set, or at least a sample of the data set with the first 5 rows. And so look for this data key value. And this data is going to be the CSV string, which is only going to be the first 5 rows of the data frame that is in the string format. You can even print this out and see how it looks like. Right, so we have our user input that says create a graph to visualize a correlation between price and success, and use this sample data. We click submit, and now it's thinking, and now it's building a scatter graph for us with some true and false legend with different colors with the markdown here. All right, so all of this is the output, is the response content, the result output. Now, I'm going to look and I'm going to say, well, forget about this for a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to return the result output. This is a return statement, has 2 objects that I'm returning. The first is the figure, which we'll go over in a second. And the second object is the result output, this right here, what we just saw. So all of this is being returned under the graph, you see? And why? Because it's being returned as it's assigned to the second output. It's the second object of the function return statement. So it's returned to the second output to the children of my content. So it's returned right here. This is where it's being returned, right under the location where the graph is going to sit right here. And this graph, this is the first output, first returned object. It's going to return to the children of my figure. So it's going to return right here. These are C graph, fig. Okay, so we have our output that's being returned inside a markdown. So this is why it looks like test, and this looks like Python code, you know, red imports, blue true, and then just regular string at the end. Pretty cool how this looks like markdown. Now, how do we actually extract the figure? How do we actually build a figure and assign and display the figure in Dash? This is what we are doing right here from line 90 to 96. First, we're going to check if the answer, the result output, includes code. Sometimes it may not include code, and this will result in none. If there's no code, the way to recognize code in Markdown is these 3 backticks at the beginning and at the end. Sometimes you have Python after it, sometimes you don't. This is how a computer, or at least AI, will tell you in Markdown that there is code inside some of this explanation. 3 backticks, and then Python. So I'm looking for these 3 backticks at the end and then the beginning. And if there's nothing in there, this will return none. Let's see, let's do this. We'll just say thank you. Let's see, hopefully it does not build code for us. Good. So there's no code. And let's see if it return none. Yeah, there we go, none. So this return print none. And because it's none, this will be false. If there's code in there, if code block match, do something. In this case, it's this. There's no code. This is none. So I'm going to return an empty string to the slot where we put the graph. There's an empty string above here between the text and the button. There's an empty string. And then I'm going to return the output. There's still a result output here, which is all of this, right? You were welcome. I'm ready to create visualization. I'm really excited about this. Give me something to build. I want to build a graph in Plotly. What are you waiting for? So in that case, we didn't have any code in it, right? But in most cases, we're going to say, build something for us, right? We'll take this again, just an example. Build a graph for us. So it's going to build a graph. So there is going to be code. You see right here in the code, there is going to be 3 backticks, Python, small p, lowercase p, or uppercase p sometimes, and closing with another 3 backticks. So because there is something in here, now we actually, this is not none, so we're actually going to go into here. Now we're going to grab the code from the whole Markdown. We're going to grab this code block, and we're going to say, substitute the fig show, this last part, with just an empty string, right? This empty string. And why? Because I don't want to have my Python right here. We're going to execute the code. I don't want to execute fig show, because if I execute fig show, you can see you can actually remove this, then a figure will be, a new tab will open with this figure, right? This is how you show a new figure in a new tab in Plotly. So I don't need it. It can be here in the code and the output, right, that we're given it right here. It can be in the output, but don't put it in the clean code. Remove the fig show from the clean code. I don't need it, not for this purpose. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run this function, get fig from code, right? This function right here, get fig from code with the clean code data, is this function right here that I told you we will get back to, right? So we're taking a local variable, we're taking the code block without the fig.show, and we're executing it. We're saying code here, global variables. Do not put globals, because it's dangerous if you actually have your app in productions. You don't want the variables to be global, so we'll just put an empty dictionary. And then here also we'll put local variables only within the function, which is an empty dictionary as well. And we'll say return the fig variable. You see, if you look at the code block right here, there are several variables. There is the fig variable. Well, in this case, it was only a fig variable. Sometimes you'll have the df variable, right? Or you have the pandas, let's see right here. Df variable we have right here. But in our case, now we have a df or a color variable, whatever. So we're going to pull the fig variable, right? We're only going to extract the fig, this one right here. So now that we have the fig, now we can assign this fig to the figure property of the DCC graph, because this is how you display a Plotly Express graph in Dash. You have to assign it to the figure property. And that is it. That is how you see your graph right here. Again, remember, this has no memory, so I won't remember what you said last time. I will make this video in next week or a week after that, so make sure to sign up to Charming Data to see the announcement of these videos, of this one and of this one, where the data is dynamic and you can upload any data you want, instead of only giving the user one data set to work with, the space mission data. All right, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a lot. This was a lot of information, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me via the chat function right here, direct messages. Just click on my name and chat with me. I'll be more than happy to try to answer any questions you have. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And always remember, we're better together, so help each other out. Bye-bye.